My name is Rob Elliott. I'm the editor of the docket call and on the board of governors for the sixth district for the Young Lawyers Conference. And this is a new series that we're starting for the docket call where we are interviewing different young lawyers across the state. And we are starting today with our YLC president, Mr. Craig Ellis.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, Craig. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
So I have some questions for you today. If you could just start kind of with a brief introduction.
Sure. So, as you said, I'm Craig Ellis, and I'm the president of the Young Lawyers Conference. This is my second year as president, and will be my last year as president. Um, and I've been in the Young Lawyers Conference almost as long as I've been a lawyer. I was barred in 2012 and in Virginia, and later in that year, I started working as a clerk in the Portsmouth Circuit Court for the judges there, and a more senior but yet still young attorney came to me, and she was in the public defender's office at the time, and said, "You really need to get involved in the community," and basically told me to become a district rep with the YLC. And that's kind of where it started. So I did that for a couple of years down in the Tidewater area. And then they asked me to become the chair for the athletics portion of the annual meeting that we do every year. Big plug, you should come out to the annual meeting. It's a good place to get your CLEs. And so I did that and ran the 5K and the volleyball tournament and all of those things. And then one day I got elected and told that I was selected to be on the board of governors, and served on that for a couple of years. And for whatever reason, they decided to make me the president at some point. And so I've been doing that. So that's kind of my YLC sort of history as far as like what I've been doing as far as practicing. Like I said, I started out as a law clerk for the Portsmouth Circuit Court, did that for just under a year, and then moved over to Chesapeake Commonwealth Attorney's Office and really started to kind of build out a prosecutorial or criminal practice. Was there for between 5 and 6 years, and then and in that time became a JAG officer and started doing that work as a reservist. And then went over to Virginia Beach and continued to prosecute there in their Commonwealth's office. Did that for about a year and a half while still being a reservist, and ultimately got an offer to come to my current office, which is with the Department of Justice in the National Security Division, Office of Intelligence, doing FISA work. So doing that and still a reservist. So that's kind of my background.
Okay. Awesome. So the work that you're doing with the Department of Justice now, what does a kind of a normal workday look like for you?
Well, I can't give you too much information about
Sure.
that because of the nature
Give
of
us
it.
all the secrets.
Right. What I can say is that I I draft FISA warrants, and I advise the the intelligence community in regards to their needs for FISA and their operations under that particular law, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. What I can give you more of is what a normal workday looks like as a prosecutor, because I did that for really, when you count the Army time as a prosecutor, or what they call a trial counsel, plus the civilian time, it's really pretty much a decade of being in criminal law, working as a prosecutor, and then now as a defense attorney on the Army side, a little bit more than a decade in criminal law. So, um, as a prosecutor, a normal day would look like coming in to the office first thing, and grabbing my case files from the night before that I had set aside for that day. Usually running up to court and having an initial meeting with usually officers, police officers, and other lay witnesses, maybe even scientific witnesses, like folks from Department of Forensic Science, or other agencies, depending on what my caseload looked like that day. First thing in the morning was usually, as far as a docket was concerned, it varies from courthouse to courthouse, but it was usually probation violations and sentencings. And so we'd have a whole docket of all of my sentencings that, cases that have already happened, as well as any of my previous cases that had somebody have a probation violation on them. And so I'd go through those usually up until about roughly 10 o'clock is when that docket was supposed to end, if we were lucky. And then I'd kind of just swap that set of files for another set of files, and those were my felony docket, trial files that had not yet gotten to sentencing yet. So those were all, any kind of potentially pretrial motions, continuances, and then, of course, actual trial work. And that would take up, however long in the day, depending on how many trials I had to do or the nature of the case or, if witnesses showed and that kind of thing. So it was a lot of a rat race of just trying to cat herd, and then once you get everybody into the room, asking the right questions and trying to adjudicate cases. And if we were lucky, you would take one day out of the week to not do anything but sit in your office and get cases ready to go to trial. So that's what a normal day looked like.
Okay. All right. What would be something that you consider an enjoyable part of your practice?
The most enjoyable part of my practice, and I would say this is all of the practices that I've ever done, whether it was more criminal law, whether it was more national security work, the most enjoyable part has always been the people. Work can change based on policy, based on, who your elected is, what they want you to do, what Congress says. A lot of things can change in terms of what the practice is, what the Supreme Court, whether it's the United States Supreme Court or the Virginia Supreme Court, what they rule can change how your practice is and whether you like it a lot or not on a daily basis. But the people are what really makes it, and that's what keeps me coming back to work every day. Just being able to work with really intelligent people, really folks who are dedicated to a mission, folks who really want to try and get it right for the citizens around them, and that's what makes it fun.
Okay. All right. Now on the flip side, what would you say is your least enjoyable part of the practice?
The least enjoyable part of the practice.
We're getting into the tough questions now. It's nothing. The softballs are over.
Who do you want to put under the bus, right? I really do like being a lawyer. It's hard to say that there's a least enjoyable part of the practice. Honestly, it's when I'm not able to practice. I would say when you have to do all the things that are around practicing law, but that aren't actual the practice of law. In the Army, there's a lot of Army stuff you got to do, and while some of it's very fun and it can be entertaining and fun and enjoyable, as a reservist, because it's a part-time gig, you have to really gin up to do things. A lot of times we have to fly out to other parts of the country to do our work and things like that. So doing the paperwork and travel and setting up your travel and trying to get that right and booking tickets and this, that, and the other, all that stuff just to get to getting to being able to advocate for somebody to do that's the part that's not so fun. And same thing on the civilian side. Whenever there's something that is a hurdle before I can get in front of that jury box, before I can actually draft that document, anything like that is probably the part that I'm like, I wish I didn't have to do this. I really just want to get to being a zealous advocate, being a good lawyer.
Okay. All right. I heard traffic. I'm going to put down traffic as least enjoyable part. Throughout practicing, what is something that you had to learn the hard way? This is the last tough one. It's all smooth sailing after this.
I just gotta get through this one. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I think it have to be, oddly enough, time management or some version of that. You would think between college, law school, all of that working, you'd have time management kind of licked. But sometimes it catches up with you. And I'll say, when I was a prosecutor, actually, um, I had an occasion where I had a case got continued because of snow, and it was an odd case in that it was what they call a special. I was a special prosecutor in another jurisdiction, so I was kind of helping them out because they were all conflicted out of the case. And so you really don't know the processes in the same way. The folks who are scheduling the case and helping you kind of do the logistics, the part the least, what I guess I just call the least enjoyable part of the practice. Those folks aren't your normal people in your office. They're in another office, kind of helping you remotely. And I had to continue this case due to weather. We had a big snowstorm, and the case had to move. And I think we had to continue it one other time because people didn't show or something to that effect. And I wasn't as familiar with the process in that courthouse as I probably should have been, and it ended up getting scheduled on a day I had reserve duty, and so I wasn't in the office. I was totally in some other place, and all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up, and I realize that I'm now in court, and I'm supposed to be in court, and that's obviously one of the you get that sinking feeling when you realize you're supposed to be in front of a judge and you're not. So I came back and mea culpa'd, and I ended up at the sort of prompting, which was the right thing to do. I was a young lawyer, really young back then, didn't know as much, and my supervisor was like, you need to write like letters to everyone. So I wrote a letter to the other elected, to the judges, the whole deal, to the defense counsel, basically saying, I really apologize for this. This is what happened, and I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. And it's just a little humbling, and I realized, like, okay, I never want to have that feeling again.
Yeah. Well, they knew. Funny part about that, they knew exactly what it was that you needed to do. So you're not alone
That's right.
in that boat. If they can give you the advice on what to do, they've either been there or seen it before themselves. So,
Exactly.
all
I
right.
also,
So,
I guess, let me add one other thing. This is a funny little story. I also realized that there's certain words you cannot say in court. My very first day, I walk in as a prosecutor, and I've got this probation violation, and I'm nervous as all get out because it's like the very first time I'm having to address the court. And the guy basically, had a failed urinalysis while he was on probation, and so that's why he's got his probation hearing, his probation violation. And I, in the course of trying to talk to the judge and trying to express our position, I couldn't get out failed urinalysis. I couldn't get out dirty urine. I couldn't get out pop hot, because that's sometimes a phrase we use to say that someone failed the urinalysis test. So what ended up coming out was he pissed hot, and and I just said it, and I just moved right on, and and that afternoon, my supervisor walked into my office. He was like, "Hey, I know you're nervous. I know you're new. Never say piss in court again." Judge didn't take too kindly to that. Next time you see him tomorrow morning, you may want to, correct that. So sure
yeah.
enough.
Again, though, he knew what you couldn't say. So where's
That's
that
right.
knowledge come from? Right.
Where does that come from? Hard learned facts.
All right, Craig. I got one more for you, and then we'll let you go. How has being a part of the YLC impacted your practice, or overall your life?
Oh wow. Again, it goes back to the most enjoyable part of my practice. Like you asked me before, it's the people. Being a part of the YLC has not only given me an opportunity to do things for my community, not only given me the opportunity to kind of stretch my legs from a leadership perspective, doing things I would have never done otherwise, leading the YLC and working for the YLC, learning how all of that works, and just becoming a better lawyer, becoming a better leader. But really, what it comes down to is I've met people like you. I've met people, like the other members of our board, and so many of our volunteers who are just amazing lawyers, amazing people, have great stories, from where they've come from, what they've done, and where they're going. and they have become some of my best friends in life. They've become my family's best friends. They, we support each other well beyond just what we do in the YLC, well beyond our professional lives, but truly in life, we've supported each other, and it's just been a wonderful, group of people to surround myself with. The YLC and the people in it have made me better as a person and as a lawyer, and I hope that I've kind of returned the favor in some small way to them. So being a part of the YLC just has been great for my family. It's just been a wonderful way to get around the state, see more people, and just make kind of get that spice of life and really engage with other people on a meaningful level.
All right. Well, Craig Ellis, YLC President, thank you so much for taking the time with us today. That's all the questions I have for you. So
Thanks so much, Rob.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. And if you are listening to this, if you are a young lawyer and would like to be a part of this process, would like to be a part of the YLC, please reach out to our members, and they'd love to get you involved and get you plugged in. If you want to be part of this interview series, please email me at editor@docketcallnewsletter.com, and we'll schedule that interview real soon. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Yep, thank you for being here.